everyone, Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com on 3. Now with On 3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football. Pete Nakos, Jamie Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So
Hello.
the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday, and it is cool out there, man. But one place that's not cool is on the shooting hands of the Indiana Pacers, especially Aaron Nesmith. Whoo, mercy. Tyrone wants me to ask Fran about the launching of the Asian University Basketball League this summer. What is that something he's a part of? We'll do that once we get him on here. Well, he may not have known it was a video link, but we'll find out. No matter what, if I have to call him, we'll call him. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know anything about the Asian Basketball League, Asian University Basketball League. But I will say this. Robert says all the weather reports are trying to convince us that the rain will miss Indianapolis. And speaking of missing, we are not going to miss Coach Fran Fraschilla. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good, Jim. Good morning in Indy. What a night, huh? What a night.
Oh,
I'm a Knicks fan. Do not rub it in.
Oh, man. I you know what? I've never worn this ever. And I just felt Kristen Airy, who is the voice of the Pacers, is on with us each Thursday. And fortunately, it worked out that today was that day. And yeah, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is the third time in the playoffs they have done something that has rarely been done before. I think twice they were down 8 or more with under 40 seconds to go, and that's only happened 3 times, and they just keep. But last night, you almost have to feel bad for the Knicks because it's like they're like, what can we do, man? We were up 14 with 2:50 to go.
I remember Reggie and Patrick Ewing, and I was in New York back then coaching, and just amazing. I've known Tyrese Halliburton since his freshman year at Iowa State, and what a great young man. Now, I didn't see the cockiness at Iowa State that I see now on the court, because as you know, Jim, off the court, he's a wonderful young man, wonderful family. I think we got to get John Halliburton back in the arena for games 3 and 4, like Barkley said. But
I heard, they were politicking for that last night. I heard that.
Yeah. So anyway, great night for basketball in Indianapolis, and it's a long series. I'm still going to root for my Knicks, but I do pull for Tyrese because of our friendship.
Yeah, I think this still goes 7 games. You can't count the Knicks out. They're going to come back and try to steal one back in Indianapolis to get that home court advantage back.
Yep.
And in addition to that, Sunday is game 3 in Indianapolis that evening. But during the day, you've got a little race called the Indianapolis 500 going on.
Yeah, I've heard about that. That's pretty something called the Brickyard. Is that
Yeah, they've got someplace there they run
Yeah.
that thing on, but
Yep.
sold out 300. It'll be like 350,000 people there. It's going to be nuts in
Yeah.
Indianapolis. But
No question.
how's everything been going for you since the season's over? Get some rest, get to refresh, because I know that during the season it's
Yeah.
nonstop, like these playoffs. Bam, 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 bam.
Well, I'm blessed. I really am. I've made a really wonderful transition from 23 years of coaching to now 22 years at ESPN. It's a family business. I got two sons coaching. One's in college. The other one is with the Washington Wizards. Young coach, going to be a star, I think. But no, basketball consumes my life literally every day of the week. Simply because I've been a junkie since I was a kid growing up in New York. So I'm watching film. I'm not actually on the draft anymore. When Woj came, he brought his own team. I kind of felt like I had the draft nailed, especially the international kids, which now has become just an incredible blossoming of great talent, not only at the NBA, but the college level. So I'm just hanging out, watching tape, and gonna enjoy the summer before I get busy again. My wife says they don't pay you to work, they pay you to travel. So I'm glad to be home.
There you go. And I learned that, and that I didn't realize this before. When you were on with us previously, you live
Yep.
out in Colorado, beautiful part of the country, man.
Yeah.
You live in one of the best places that of the guys I know. I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
what
No,
is that?
we're blessed, man. I grew up in Brooklyn. I married a Dallas girl. We raised our boys in Dallas when I went to ESPN. And honestly, it got too hot for us. She's a Dallas girl. She said, we're getting out of here. Colorado's always the best. When I was coaching, and I honeymooned in Colorado 37 years ago coming up, but that was our getaway from the stress of the season for a couple weeks in August. There was a time where coaches actually had a defined time in college to take off. These guys with the portal and transfers and everything else, I don't know how they do it, but August for us was the vacation time before the school year started. Colorado became our thing, and now we live in Colorado Springs, right at the peak of, right at the foothills of Pikes Peak.
Yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful place. That's awesome to see. You mentioned the international players, and one of the things that I wanted to talk about, I was talking about it with Mike DeCourcy the other day, and he said, "Oh man, Fran's the expert on that. He knows it." And I was just had been reading some things and saw that the agent for Joker for
Yes.
Denver has, it's something, messing with NCAA players is something that is not that he would do, but that at the last Final Four, he had between 55 and 70 meetings and expects to represent upwards of 50 college basketball players coming up, because what NIL has done and opened the eyes for a lot of these European players that normally would have stayed in the pro league system that they were in or whatever.
Yeah, no question, Jim. When I started doing the NBA draft for ESPN in 2004, I was the international guy, and I had some experience. I've been over. I've done clinics in 10, 11 countries, had international kids on my team when I was coaching. Not many, but a guy like Mishko Raznatovich, who I know well, he would have never gotten his hands dirty, if you will, with trying to get kids to come to college 25 years ago, because the money was in Europe at the time. And what people don't really realize is these kids are actually quote unquote pros at an early age. You can define it any way you want if you're the NCAA, and we don't know how they define anything anymore, unfortunately. But Mishko figured out that the way the NIL thing is going now, and I'll say this, okay, because I have many friends in the former Yugoslavia. If you go to Belgrade, it's like going to, it's like going to the heart of New York City in some of those rough areas where I grew up, or Chicago or Detroit. They don't have a lot of money in places like Belgrade and Zadar, Croatia. So when you offer a kid the kind of money that NIL is able to offer now, take an Illinois team, for example, that's loading up with Mishko's guys. These kids that's generational wealth for a kid from Belgrade. Even if he doesn't make the NBA, if he's able to make 3, 4, 5 million over his career at Illinois, you would not believe how far that money goes. So it's
Ooh.
a whole new world. We're all getting used to it. I saw it coming 20 years ago. I just didn't see the NCAA. Let's just say fall on its face in terms of the rules, because we really don't know what the rules are right now when it comes to all this eligibility.
No, and even with the foreign players, there's hoops that they have to jump through for NIL, because
Right.
if you're on a specific visa, you can't get money but
Yeah.
there's ways that you can. There's different visas you can get. I've researched and found out there's different types of visas. You can run it back through your home country.
Well, let me
So
tell you this, Jim. Let me tell you this. Mishko is way smarter than you and me. Okay, I
Yeah.
know that man. I've known him. He's one of the great agents in Europe. So if anybody figured out NIL, the legality of it, it's a guy like him. So I'm still trying to figure it out. You're doing your research, but in point of fact, these agents are good. The great ones, anyway, the ones that are here in the States, the NBA agents, and guys like him overseas, they know what they're doing because they know how to create wealth for their clients, which is what he's done.
Shouldn't agents, with all the money that's out there and all that's going on,
Yeah.
shouldn't agents have to be certified like they are in professionals? Because right now, any
Yeah.
Joe Blow off the street can be a quote unquote agent.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. At the college level, these, there's some good agents out there, but there's some nefarious characters involved with the NIL aspect. Like I said, guys like Bill Duffy, Mark Bartelstein in the NBA, these guys are professionals. They know what they're doing. But there's a lot of fly-by-night guys that are representing themselves as agents, handling NIL and transfer portal stuff that, are in many cases are just don't have the kids' best interests at heart. But on the other hand, most of us think that NIL could be a good thing if it were regulated. And right now, there's no regulation, whether it's international kids or these high school kids.
Yeah, and along with the transfer portal, which on one hand, it has done some good because it has certainly leveled the playing field in football and basketball, because we've seen teams in both sports rise up that we normally would not see rise up. And that's been fun for me. I enjoyed it. The NCAA tournament last year, it was real chalky, but that's okay. That's as long as the games are good. Florida, I guarantee you, before the season, most people probably weren't picking Florida, and they dang sure didn't know the names of the players that were on their team.
Well, they'll be good this year, and you won't know some of those names either because they've hit the portal hard, But all these things have unintended consequences. Some good, some bad. Like to your point about the chalkiness, right? Like we like Cinderella, we do. I mean, I was a Cinderella coaching at Manhattan, but when we get to the Sweet 16, we want to see great basketball, which is what we saw this year, because all those teams were loaded with transfers. Now, the flip side of it is, where's the accountability? Where's the handling adversity? You used to go play, let's say at Indiana. Purdue's a great example. Matt Painter's still somewhat old school. Like if you go there and he tells you may not play as a freshman, he's probably telling you the truth, but it doesn't mean you can't turn into a really good player in time. A Kaufman Wren or something, Braden Smith played from day one, but we used to love the kid who overcame adversity or went up against the juniors and seniors at practice as a freshman, got better, and then became a star. We're missing some of that because many of these kids don't know how to handle adversity. So first chance they all of a sudden are not playing because they were the star in the AAU and the high school team, they're gone. And I think some of that resilience is missing. But again, just one of many unintended consequences that are both good and bad.
Absolutely, because many times we see people leaving because a lack of minutes, and exactly what you're talking about. A lot of times that's a challenge to these guys that the coach may actually believe that they can play that year, but they want them to fight, to earn, to learn, to fight for every bit of that, to scrap and do whatever it takes. And yeah, I agree with you that if you were taking that challenge away, then you're not going to have that ability.
Yeah, and then that's like I said, there's good and bad with some of this stuff. Mikal Bridges from the Knicks redshirted at Villanova, and Dante DiVincenzo, who's in the playoffs with the T-Wolves right now, redshirted at Villanova, almost unheard of, and that's only 5 or 6, 7 years ago. Times have changed now. It's hard to get that kid to realize there's a big picture out there when they're sitting on the bench or redshirting as a freshman.
With the expected European players coming over, now this is not going to be with the amount of college players. It's not like a pro league where it would really impact from a percentage standpoint, but there is going to be an impact. I see what Brad Underwood is doing at Illinois, and who he's does a remarkable job because he seems to do this every year. But this year he's done it through a group of European players.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, here's another unintended. Listen, I'm Mr. International Basketball. I was a pioneer at this stuff 20 years ago with the draft, and I love my international friends, and I love seeing, the diversity of, a Doncic in the end. Like, remember Doncic 7 years ago? Nobody knew who really he was, at least here in the States. Jokic was a second-round pick, and now you see them coming to college, as we've already discussed. Here's the problem. The top 75 kid from I'll give you a great example, Cannon Catchings. Cannon Catchings, I don't know why he didn't stay at Purdue. I love his aunt Tamika is a great lady, works for us. Cannon Catchings is one of those kids that got lost in the shuffle at BYU this year. And so think about it now. The top 75 high school kid from Fort Wayne, Indy, Chicago, all of a sudden, like, it's not as easy for him to compete like it was because we might have, at least at the high major level, 75 international guys playing in the Big 10, Big 12, SEC, ACC. And think about the amount of opportunities it's now taken away from college kids. Now, I'm not against international guys because, like I said, I like that diversity. But all of a sudden, like at Illinois now, Brad doesn't have to go to Chicago and deal with the AAU guys up there. He's dealing with Mishko. And Mishko's a good businessman. And when Mishko finds out what the NIL deal is in Champaign, hey, you're not playing in Belgrade this year. You're going to Champaign, Illinois. That's how things are changing. And it's affecting a lot of people.
And it's got to be easier for the coaches. If you could deal with one guy and pull in 2 or 3 players, that saves a lot of wear and tear.
Probably. And, you got to get used to Balkan food over there in those places. But, no, but anyway, so there's a lot of good to this. And there's some things that I don't like, but these are those unintended consequences.
The numbers probably won't be enough to where, will it be enough to alter the college landscape, the college game?
I think so. I wouldn't have said that 2 years ago because I didn't think we'd have a gold rush, if you will.
Right.
It's actually a good analogy, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
You
got to run on it, baby. You got to run on that gold.
Just like those people in the 1800s ran out to California, they're coming. Like I said, a kid, let me put it in perspective. I love Indianapolis. Okay. I love downtown, Final Four next year. You come from Belgrade to Indianapolis, it's like going to New York City or LA for those kids. They can't believe that there's a Steak and Shake on the corner. And, I know my Indianapolis now.
Yes, you do.
But, they think America, which rightfully so, when you think of how poor some of those kids are, they think of America as like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Another good analogy. But so they're coming. They're coming. They're going to make an impact and they're going to change the landscape. That's what's happening. It's a little scary, again, if you're a high school kid who's a top 100 player, because you're not automatically going to play anymore right away when you can go get transfers who are upperclassmen, or you can go get these international kids, which in many cases, they're 19, 20, 21, practicing with pros. There's a kid coming over. I got to think about this for a second. I can't tell you which kid it is because I'm so but he just came over and he played with 8 guys on his pro team who are former NBA players, and he's 18 and he's going to be coming to college. So don't think he's not a little bit more advanced and ready to play
go
than the kid that is playing up in Fort Wayne.
That brings me to a question, because of when the American players go over in Europe and play pro in the various pro leagues, there's usually a limit of 2 Americans per team.
It's changed.
Is it going? Oh, it is.
It has changed through the years. Yeah, but I get it. But let me answer your question before you ask me. And I don't mean to do that to you.
No, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah. So most of the countries now can have 3, 4, 5, 6 Americans. That two international limit really went out the window. But here's the other thing: the kid who's like, let's take Trace Jackson Davis. Okay, 25 years ago, if he couldn't go to the NBA, he'd be the leading scorer on a team in Spain. If Trace had gone, believe it or not, he played a lot as a rookie, remember? But if he had gone to Real Madrid out of college, he would have been the 10th man. He really would have been the 10th man. And 25 years ago, they wanted the American to be the leading scorer. And I'll put it this way, and I love Matt Painter. Purdue would have lost to Real Madrid by 30 or 40 this year. That's how good the level of play is. Real Madrid would not be the worst team in the NBA. So to your point, it's easier to come to Illinois or Indiana and make an impact for an 18-year-old Serbian kid than it would be to play at a high level in Europe right now.
You cover a lot of games in the Big 12, of course. Your beat there. Any familiarity with Darian DeVries, the new coach at Indiana?
Yep. I did. I'll say this. First of all, he's an excellent coach. I watched him from afar at Drake. I remember when he was an assistant at Creighton. I only did 2 WVU games this year because they were considered to start the year at the bottom of the league. And he did a great job in 1 year at West Virginia. He really did. If his son hadn't gotten hurt, they would have definitely been an NCAA tournament team. And keep in mind, they lost their whole roster. That's like the new thing, right? He took over. He got a young man, by the way, from South Bend, Javon Small, who's probably going to get drafted in the second round, came out of nowhere. Darren's an excellent coach. He's an understated guy. He's not going to wow you with his personality, I don't think. But he's meat and potatoes. And, that roster is interesting because he starts off with a borderline pro in his son. Now, his son may end up being a good NBA player, but at least at this stage, he's going to probably be at least a second-round pick. I like what he's doing, but the proof's going to be – and he's put together a highly paid, good staff. Can't believe what these assistant coaches are making, Jim. I think I'd leave ESPN for an assistant coaching job right now. But,
I keep saying I want to get fired. I want to be a fired coach.
Exactly. I was, and I turned it into a TV career. I know the feeling. But I think the proof's going to be in the pudding because the transfer portal is important. Obviously, the high school basketball recruiting is important. And I think the biggest thing they've got to do, and I know Woody tried to do this, and Tom Crean's a close friend, but man, I spent 8 years in Ohio at Ohio U and Ohio State. And I was a Coach Knight guy. I really was. I was on both sides of his temper when I was a broadcaster, but I'd like to see them get the magic back, the mystique, which, we haven't really seen in quite a while. So he's got a tall order. He's a very good coach, but you're not going to get you're not going to get Wayne Newton every night entertaining you. You're going to get meat and potatoes.
Yeah, he's put together a team full of guys that that you wouldn't have heard of unless even the kid from Florida didn't play a lot, but he has a lot of kids that played on programs that were either winning programs or that they were winners as far as in the conferences and things like that. And you can tell this is going to be a team that is very different from what Indiana fans have seen for a number of years. They're going to be shooting the ball a lot. And they don't have really bigs, quote unquote. They've got Reed Bailey, who's 6'10", and that's it. Then it goes down to 6'9" and below, but very, very athletic.
Yeah, I think so. Reed is a kid that I talked to my NBA friends during the season, and they really liked him, not necessarily to be a first rounder, but he was definitely on the board for a lot of teams because he's such a good runner. You're going to love the way Obviously he can shoot the ball and get up and for a kid his size, but he can really run. And there's going to be times where he's going to look really good, I think, in Darren's in coach's system.
I was a little surprised that none of either the recruits or players came from West Virginia. That usually happens.
Well, I got to tell you, they didn't have a lot of talent other than Javon Small and his son that I would have necessarily said, hey, come with me to Indiana. Like, he really put together, once his son got hurt, a patchwork team. And I wasn't surprised, having seen them play, that they couldn't do better in the portal than some of the guys that he might have left behind, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. What's up next for you, man? Just a little more relaxing and tape work?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do this summer. I was involved with 3x3 this last couple of years. We qualified for Paris. Jimmer Fredette is now I recruited to play, is now going to take over 3x3. It's a great sport, Olympic sport. Think about beach volleyball to volleyball. That's we all grow up playing 3-on-3 half court. I'm out of that now, so I've got the summer off. As I said, I got a son coaching it in the NBA. I got a son coaching at Harvard where he played, and I'm gonna work the NBA Players Association Top 100 camp. I'll get out and see that. Being in Colorado Springs, I get to see all the USA basketball stuff out here. Believe it or not, the under 16 team is out here starting today so I watch them when they're babies, and the under 19 team's coming out here in June before they go to Switzerland. I don't have a job, Jim. I'm a basketball junkie, so I'm blessed. I really am.
We are very blessed for you taking the time to join us, man. I always appreciate you so much. I love listening to you call games. I love the way you call the games from your coaching perspective, but also the down home manner. Only thing is, next time we're going to have you start off playing the piano, tickling the ivories a little bit back there.
That's for my wife. That's for my wife. That's not. That piano makes me look really smart on Zoom calls. So don't worry about it. I'm from Brooklyn. Hey. I don't know pianos. Okay.
Hey, pizza though, baby.
I do. I sure do.
Fran, I cannot thank you enough, sir. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure, Jim. We'll do this again soon.
Absolutely. Fran Fraschilla joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, ESPN broadcaster, long time, as well as coach as well. Very, very fortunate to have him stop by. I love talking to him. I love his perspective. Like I said, he's just someone that calls great games and does a wonderful job when he's doing it. And wish he called some more Big Ten games, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. I love talking to those guys that have the knowledge, that have been there, that have the experience, that have been around. And Fran is definitely one of those guys, and great, and always great with their time. So always so fortunate as we are. We're fortunate tomorrow. Todd Leary back on the program. Zach Osterman and Alec Lasley. We will get you caught up on Indiana basketball and what all is going there. We've hit on everything this week multiple times. Pacers, the Colts, the little race called the Indianapolis 500, which goes off on Sunday, and of course, Indiana basketball and football as well. So trying to keep you updated on everything that's going on around the state and anything that's connected to it. Hope you guys have yourselves a great day as you head out. One more day, baby. One more day until the weekend. Tomorrow is Friday, and I cannot wait. Looking forward to it. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Hello, everyone. everyone, Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com on 3. Now with On 3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football, Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side, and the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there, sign up today.